That's a very interesting, and COVID is a great example. So if you are in a business, obviously COVID has impacted, and this is one such case where the outside is influencing the inside, right? So I want to grow, but everything outside is sort of going in a haywire direction. So from your vantage point, what is the state of innovation when we are in this state of obscurity, or I don't know what's going on, I don't know, every external sort of parameters are changing, which is in many ways disruption does that to many companies. But like, what's your vantage point? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, first of all, a note of empathy and concern for those that have really struggled through this time, health-wise and financially and everything else. Certainly don't mean to be glib about the real challenges that people have and will continue to face. That being said, looking at it from a positive standpoint, I do think there's an opportunity here in that the world is hitting a giant reset button. In other words, patterns, consumer loyalty, company processes have all been disrupted. Not by our choice, obviously, to an external point, as you mentioned, but now there's a chance to rethink them. And so I think that this is giving a lot of people an opportunity to sort of reshuffle the deck in terms of how you do your work, how you do your job, how you live as a person, how you interact with your family. And as the world hits a giant reset button, there really is a big opening. That creates an opening for new entrants, whether it's a startup or a bigger company that's trying new things, because people are going to be less committed to the old way as a result of this giant reset.
Interesting. And would you see how businesses take innovation, their appetite changing because of this phenomena? Like, what's your take on that?
I do. I think it's accelerated innovation in many cases because people who were coasting along, and we know this, it happens all the time. You're just coasting along, riding on previous success, trying to hit your monthly bonus as opposed to trying to reinvent the world. And then, so there's no reason, there's no impetus, so people can become comfortable in their ways. COVID strikes, that's a big shaking up of things. And I think it's caused people to really take a hard look in the mirror and reconsider everything from their product line to their approaches to the way they interact and their company culture. So I do think it's accelerated innovation in many cases. I've heard many companies actually that I work with have said, we've made all this massive innovation in the last few months. We had planned to do it anyway, but this served as an accelerant. And I do think that that's happening in every corner of the world, frankly.
Interesting. And what are some of misconception when it comes to, and you pointed out that it doesn't have to be disruptive, it doesn't have to be big. What are some other misconception you think people have about when it comes to innovation or being creative?
Yeah, I think that people discount little ideas, and I think that the better way to think of it is that those little ideas add up to big stuff. Harvard study recently published said that 72% of gross domestic product in the United States doesn't come from the giant ideas. It comes from the little ones, from big little breakthroughs. And so they don't earn the media attention as when Elon Musk launches a new space rocket. But it's those little things where someone does an innovative way and their closing percentage increases as a salesperson, or someone else in a factory does an innovative thing and they save, 0.2% of margin per unit. And those are not glamorous, but they add up to big stuff. And the cool thing there, though, is that it's within our grasp. Like, that means that every one of us can be an innovator. And I just love that. To me, it's just freeing. In fact, we in technology, we do upgrades all the time. We upgrade our hardware, we upgrade our software. And I'm saying, well, why can't we upgrade our creativity? And my suggestion to people is, instead of thinking about, I want to do 100% upgrade, like I'm going from one processor to the next and it's 80% increase in performance, think about a 5% creativity upgrade, just 5%. And 5% is absolutely within the grasp of all of us. It feels really manageable and accessible, but it's a high leverage activity because a 5% upgrade might yield 100% better results. I mean, many of the outcomes in our lives are binary. You make the deal or you lose the deal. You get the job or you don't get the job. And so in those binary outcomes, which are often in photo finish type margins of error, that little boost of creativity can be the advantage, the edge that we're seeking. And so I would say that it's a pretty simple thing. If we focus a little energy on getting a little bit more creative, it can yield a disproportionately large set of results in the things that matter most to us.
Interesting. So I was talking to, this reminds me of an interesting conversation I had with this large bank. They're not known for their creativity, by the way. So I was talking to them about how can they create, how they harness the culture of creativity and innovation within their groups. And this particular person's response was that since it's very creativity and innovation is linked to so much to the culture of a company, It's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to change the culture. We try, but obviously there was a pushback, this push. So it's a constant battle. And she said, I don't see the story any different from for any other larger entities. They all struggle, and there's a reason we would rather die than being creative. And he said it's not what we want. It's basically it's the culture as a whole is designed in a way that it's very difficult to shift, and very few are lucky enough to shift that. With like what's your thinking behind it? What do you think?
Well, first of all, and I certainly don't mean disrespect for this, but if they say our choice is get creative or die, they're likely going to die if they don't. I mean, that's a prophetic. That was a good prediction there, unfortunately. And I think this notion of that we can't or that I'm a victim to it is really disheartening. In that I really think we can. And we've seen organizations transform. We've seen organizations get creative. Doesn't mean it's easy, but what things in life that are worth doing are easy. And it can happen both ways. It can happen from the top down, and it can happen from the ground up. We've seen innovation spark in little pockets in big companies, and it might be a little moonshot project, or it might be a little skunk works thing, and it grows into something magical. And we've also seen leaders take the helm of big companies and install a different set of beliefs, a different set of rituals and rewards that supports the creative process rather than restricts it. I mean, one that comes to mind is a friend of mine named Ivy Ross. She's now at Google, but she was the head of innovation at Mattel. And they were actually, even though it's a toy company, feeling rather not creative. And so she went to the CEO and said, look, is creativity part of the job or not? He said, oh, yeah, of course it is. And she said, all right, well, then we're just doing it wrong. So she convinced him to do something really cool. She said, if we can lose people for 90 days for maternity leave, why can't we let people take a sabbatical, a controlled sabbatical for innovation leave? So she created this thing, which she called Project Platypus, where she gathered cross-functional people from all around the company, different roles, different, everything, and took them to a different building on the campus. They were absolved of all line responsibility. And they would first started learning to get creative. They went to improv classes, they went on field trips, and then they were given work product to reimagine what Mattel might look like. And so she did she set up a goal. She wanted like one medium idea and two small ideas was the goal for the year, which would more than pay for the program. And in the first session, she did these 90-day sessions. They created a $1 billion idea. And it's since gone on to become this wildly successful innovation engine. By the way, not only do they create great work product, when those people go back to their day job, they've been transformed. They're whole different mindset, and they act as creativity accelerants throughout the entire Mattel workforce. So I would say, yes, you're right. It's not easy. Yes, you're right. There are obstacles. But I think that isn't that our responsibility as leaders is to tap the creative resources of our people. Think about it like this. If you had an oil well in your backyard and you didn't tap it, you're really not being a very good fiduciary. And on the other hand, if all we do is go after it with a little shovel that's made out of plastic, that's not going to work so well. So isn't it our job to like whatever we can do to put commercial grade drilling materials out there and get that resource to life? Well, if you think about this, creativity is a natural, non-pollutive, renewable, free resource that doesn't hurt the environment, and it's inside all of our workforces. Shame on us if we don't bring it out.